So joining us now is California Congressman Pete Aguilar, chair of the House Democratic Caucus. It's good to see you again, Congressman. Let me just start with the big picture. What's your level of confidence that Democrats can pull this off in your state? And do you think, based on what you're seeing now in Texas, it's an imperative to do it?
Well, I'm confident that we have to. What we are seeing in Texas is terrible. And you see this split screen there where President Trump calls Governor Abbott and says, find me 5 congressional seats. That's exactly what happened. This is very similar to his call to Brad Raffensperger, where he said, find me 11,780 votes. When the president wants something done, he picks up the phone. And right now, the Republicans in Texas will do whatever they can to ingratiate themselves to Donald Trump. And that's dangerous. It's dangerous for our communities. We see it on the streets. It's dangerous for those people who have health care. Republican majority is dangerous for people in California. And it's time that we stepped up and responded. And so I'm pleased that our state legislature is considering putting this ballot measure before the people, which is an element that Texas is not doing. And so ultimately, the voters of California will have the final say on what maps we have next year.
So there was a political poll, I think it was just last week, that showed strong support in California to keep your independent panel to control redistricting. Are you seeing something different from internal data that tells you that this fight is what Californians want? Or just explain to me the thought process going into a decision to move ahead on this.
Yeah. California, Chris, has the gold standard in independent redistricting. We lift that up. I voted for independent redistricting. I love independent redistricting, but it needs to be independent redistricting in 50 states. Right now, California has unilaterally disarmed by having fair maps while we let Indiana, Missouri, Florida, and Texas all go forward in a partisan basis to draw their own maps. What we need is a California process of independent redistricting carried out across 50 states. The question that the poll that you mentioned just asked people if they like independent redistricting. And the answer is yes, people like independent redistricting. But if you ask the question, do you think it's fair that Donald Trump is rigging these elections? Do you think that it's fair that Donald Trump picks up the phone and tells the Texas state legislature to give him 5 seats so he can take away your health care and so he can continue to terrorize our communities? The answer is no. And we have the data to back that up. But we look forward to having that conversation with the voters. Right now in front of us, you have this split screen where Texas is unilaterally taking this action. And then you have Sacramento, our legislators, being thoughtful, being mindful of these maps, and ultimately voting to put it before the people, which is something that Texas isn't doing.
So let me go back to my original question. Assuming that happens, we talked about the deadline that's coming up in a couple of days. What's your level of confidence it will happen?
I'm confident this will happen. I'm confident our state legislative leaders will pass this off of the floor of the Assembly and the Senate tomorrow. And I'm confident that the governor will sign this into law. We have to. The cost of inaction to the state of California is too great. The cost of kicking people off of health care, the cost of not responding to our federal disaster declarations, the cost of Donald Trump to the people of California is too great for us not to take this action.
Let's just talk about your state then, because the party is up against some big money interests and a fundraising juggernaut by the name of former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you guys have the money to sustain what could be a big fight in California, but then also, as a lot of people have been pointing out, what could then become a longer-term national fight?
Yes, I'm confident that we'll have the resources to ask the voters, which maps do you think we should run in? That's what this is about. This is about putting it before the voters and asking them that simple question. By the way, the question in front of them that they will be voting on is that Californians support independent national redistricting. The ballot measure specifically says that the Independent Commission comes back in 2031. This is a temporary measure to answer what Donald Trump is trying to do across this country. It is temporary. And it is considerate of the Voting Rights Act, which is something that Texas does not care about. They are splitting communities of color. We are doing everything we can in this map to lift up those communities of interest and protect the Voting Rights Act. We honor and lift that work up. But we will have the resources to compete. We will have the resources to engage in this effort to ask the voters, do you want Donald Trump to rig these maps across this country, or do you want us to respond?
Can I put this in a little bit of a different context, Congressman, which is, I don't know if you saw the story today, a big investigation and review of voter registrations by the New York Times, and they found that the Democratic Party is hemorrhaging voters, losing millions of registrations while the Republicans are gaining millions. The clear message from voters, including those not registering for your party, is you don't understand us. You don't get our everyday. Is redistricting going to turn the tide at a time when we know Americans are worried about the cost of living? They're worried about their futures. They're worried about if they or their kids are going to have a job. I know that you, other Democrats, believe that this is a fight for democracy. But as far as addressing what American concerns are, is this the smartest move for Democrats?
It is, because living under Donald Trump and House Republicans has shown us exactly what is at stake in the next election. A Donald Trump that is unchecked after the 2026 elections will impact your ability across this country to provide for your families, to ensure that your kids have safe communities and a good quality education. That's what's at stake this election. Healthcare that Donald Trump and House Republicans are taking away from millions of people in the state of California and across this country is exactly why we're doing this. But your point is well taken. We have to make this about the people that we represent. And what Texas Republicans are doing at the behest of Donald Trump is trying to rig the system because they have failed policies. If they felt so confident about their one big ugly bill that rips healthcare away from people, they would have passed the bill and they would spend August going around the country and selling it. And what do we see instead? We see them running around and doing everything they can to take away healthcare from people, not to support fairness, not to support our communities. They have to do this because they have no other policy platform to stand on. But we have to connect this to people, and we have to talk about the policies that we stand for. And I think that's totally fair. We want to make life more affordable for people across this country. We'll want to make sure that you have access to health care, that your kids have an opportunity for a good paying job, that your kids can buy a home and live in the community in which they were raised. That's what's at stake this election and in 2026.
Congressman Pete Aguilar, thank you so much for your time. Good to see you.